Liverpool have had what could potentially be their best transfer window ever. Jeremy Frimpong, Milos Kerkez, Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, Giorgio Mamardashvili has come in after his transfer from last summer, and of course the big name of the window, Freddie Woodman. But look, I largely think winning the transfer window is nonsense anyway. You never really know how a team is going to fit together with so many signings, and especially after a team as successful like Liverpool last year were, you don't know if that's going to mix the dynamics of the team or if it's going to take a lot longer for the And look, Liverpool still have work to do in the transfer market. Joel Quanta left for Bayer Leverkusen, and Joe Gomez can't seem to stay fit for more than 5 seconds anymore, so they clearly need a centre-back. And the club clearly recognises this, as they've had a pretty public pursuit of Mark Gahey, but whether he's their man remains to be seen. However, you can't argue that up until this point it hasn't been a hugely impressive summer window for Liverpool. But is it going to get better? Alexander Isak at this point seems quite likely to leave Newcastle United. And there's been some debate whether Liverpool should actually be going for the Swedish international after spending 69 million on Hugo Ekitike. There's also a debate whether the Counter Sport can reach 500 subscribers by the start of the new Premier League season, which is just over 2 weeks away. So please, if you enjoy our videos and you would like to see us do some more, then please consider hitting that subscribe button. But back to Ekitike, and there's a few factors we need to think about here. He's 23 years old and has only really had one impressive season, two if you count the 11 and 26 for Reims back in the 21-22 season. Is he really ready to be the main man for Liverpool? The Bundesliga and League One aren't on the same level as the Premier League. It could take a little while to adapt, and Liverpool can't really afford to have a player who's still learning on the job essentially. And that's because Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk signed 2-year contract extensions only a few months ago. If Liverpool want to maximise them and get them the trophy haul that they deserve, then they need win-now players. Alexander Isak is potentially the best striker in the Premier League, maybe even the world, but it all depends on what you probably want from a 9. However, if Liverpool want Isak and Isak wants Liverpool, then it makes sense for Liverpool to buy him. They clearly have the money to get him, and probably even a centre-back or two if they really wanted to. They're never in breach of PSR/FFP rules, so that's not going to hinder them either. They've also got a ton of sales to make, which will make it doable for them. They've just sold Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich. Darwin Núñez and Harvey Elliott probably bring in over 100 million combined. And then there's smaller sales like Tyler Morton, Van Dijk, Kostas Tsimikas, who will all probably bring in around 70 million themselves. And then when you look at the options up front, they'd have Florian Wirtz, Cody Gakpo, Mohamed Salah, Hugo Ekitike, Rio Ngamoa, who turned 17 in August, could potentially be a squad option in certain games this year. Dominik Szoboszlai has previously played at left wing for RB Leipzig, so he could be an option if they really needed him to. And Jeremy Frimpong looks like he's been brought in to play as a right winger/right back, depending again on the situation. And then when you combine Alexander Isak into that, they don't really need any more forward players up there, so it would make sense for Liverpool to spend 130 million on a forward. If they keep the same formation, then it would probably look something like Szoboszlai or Wirtz as the 10, Gakpo on the left wing if needed, or the German international as well on the left wing, which personally I think would be better for Liverpool, because I don't think Dominik Szoboszlai should really be taken out of the team due to his off-ball work. They could also play a 4-2-2-2 with Wirtz and Szoboszlai as double 10s, which would then allow Liverpool to keep Szoboszlai in the team while having Wirtz maximised as more of a 10 than potentially getting out on the left wing, but I don't really think he'd be there anyway. Slot also really likes the idea of the right back coming up into the middle of the pitch and high, which works well with Salah and Szoboszlai's link-up play. While other situations would see Kerkez bombing down the left-hand side, overlapping Florian Wirtz, and that could work in either formation. You'd imagine Frimpong would be an overlapping right-back compared to Bradley, who's more of that inside right-back, so it gives Liverpool a ton of options. Liverpool will undoubtedly have problems at the back and in the middle because of Ryan Gravenberch's defensive instability. I suppose his positional awareness isn't quite there for what you would want for a 6. But if Milos Kerkez, Jeremy Frimpong and Conor Bradley can all work tirelessly to get back in time and help their team defend, then they wouldn't leave Konate and Van Dijk as exposed as they might have before. But Liverpool might just be able to get away with it anyway, because if you've got a front line that includes Isak, Wirtz and Salah, they're going to score more goals more of the time against most teams. Over 130 million is a lot of money, but if it brings success, is it really a question? We'll have to wait and see if the Alexander Isak deal goes through. It looks like a large part currently hinges on whether they can get Benjamin Sesko and Johan Visser into the club. But if Liverpool do manage to get this one over the line, then you can bet that they have done their absolute best to make sure they stay as Premier League champions.